Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Janessa Webb. What a fantastic start to the work week with mild air in place. I know a little bit more cloud coverage. Our weather team, we are tracking isolated rain showers for tonight, but I think the #1 talker, temperatures, they're back near 80 degrees this week. I'll show you when coming up.
The station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
I know that the angels are dancing, waiting for him, because he's just been more than what you really can say.
As former President Jimmy Carter enters hospice, we're talking to this D.C. woman who says he changed her life. Tonight at 9, the legacy Carter leaves in D.C. beyond just politics.
And a heartbreaking high-rise fire in Silver Spring. It claimed the life of a young woman with a full life ahead of her. Her parents and boyfriend share their memories of her with DC News Now. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for DC News Now at 9. I'm Tasmin Mahfouz.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Flanagan. The family of former President Jimmy Carter says he is resting comfortably tonight at his home in Georgia. It follows a decision to enter hospice care. Reaction is pouring in from all across the country, and it's especially being felt in Carter's hometown of Plains, Georgia.
And the 98-year-old Carter is the nation's oldest living president. It's his work after leaving the White House, actually, he's the most renowned for.
Yeah, here in the DMV, the former president's impact is still felt every day for families, particularly in D.C.
Yeah, Carter spent decades giving back, building up the city he called home for years. Max Marcillo joins us live from Benning Road in Southeast, where Carter actually built homes for families in the early 1990s. And Max, you met one of those homeowners tonight. She said Jimmy Carter changed her life.
That's right. She says he did. That woman was Karen Long. She's lived in her home for 32 years. She has raised 3 children, all of whom she says are contributing to society in positive ways with good jobs. And she says all of that was made possible by the work of President Jimmy Carter.
He was that person that gave these neighbors hope. And that's what it's all about.
We met Karen Long on the porch of her home on Benning Avenue in Southeast on a day where she says her heart is heavy. It's been more than 3 decades since she and her family moved into this home, built by the 39th President of the United States and Habitat for Humanity, a job that's become a large part of his legacy.
And it was a lot of things he did. He helped to build these houses. It wasn't just that he was a part of saying that he was a part of this. He actually came in, pick up wood, pick up a hammer.
Long's family was selected to live here because her husband had health issues. What impressed her about the former president was not just his working skills, but his heart and generosity.
I tell you, when the scripture says a good and faithful servant, that's who Jimmy Carter is. He's a good and faithful servant because he went beyond not just being the president, but he went beyond to let people know that someone loves us all, whether we know it or not.
Long and her husband met Carter, a moment she modestly described as cool and nice.
They were just good-hearted people, kind people, that had the love for want to do things in society to make it better for others.
As the oldest living president is in hospice care at his Georgia home, Long is praying for him and his family while thanking him for what he did for hers.
Because you couldn't have a better person, and he will always be remembered, always.
Now, Long tells us tonight one other thing Carter meant to her was it taught her the importance of giving back. She says she will always give back to others because of what Carter was able to do for her. Reporting live in Southeast, Max Marcillo, DC News Now.
What a legacy, Max. Thank you. Meanwhile, new details tonight. Family and loved ones mourning a Montgomery County woman killed in a high-rise apartment fire. Flames tore through the Arrive apartments in downtown Silver Spring Saturday. The fire claimed the life of this young woman, Melanie Diaz. Our Dave Laval spoke with members of her family who were just days away from seeing Melanie.
She was a really special person,
Cesar Diaz fondly reflects on his oldest child. Melanie Diaz lived on the 11th floor of Tower A of the Arrive apartment complex, the scene of Saturday's fire. Diaz said firefighters found his daughter's body on the 9th floor as she tried to escape with her 2 dogs. They too perished. 25-year-old Melanie moved into the building about 2 years ago, shortly after she graduated from Georgetown University, and had worked as an event planner for the Aspen Institute.
She always was laughing, you know. She wanna make people comfortable. When always she see people sad, angry, she tried to make in those people's faces a smile.
Diaz grew up near Fort Lauderdale. She last saw her family over Christmas. They plan to travel to Silver Spring next week to see her.
I'm taking it day by day. I'm taking hour by hour.
Michael Sobelvaro of Silver Spring is Diaz's boyfriend of 6 years. The two met while both attended Georgetown.
What really attracted me to her was her good spirit, her ambition. She was a silent leader who always tried to bring people who may have not been part of the conversation. She went out of her way to bring people in. She was very sweet. She cared about the environment and for animals.
That building still unsafe to live in.
Diaz worried about seeing his daughter move into the building, since he said it lacks safety features including fire extinguishers and sprinklers. But sprinklers were not required when the building was constructed over 50 years ago. Maryland will require all buildings to have sprinklers in them, regardless of when they were built, by January 1st, 2033. But Diaz wants that date moved up to now.
Today was my daughter. Tomorrow can be your daughter, your son, your mother, your father, your wife, your husband, anybody.
Management of the apartment complex did not respond to our request for a comment. There's no word when the funeral for Melanie Diaz will take place. Her father said the remains will be cremated along with a memorial service back in South Florida. In Silver Spring, Dave Laval, DC News Now.
And new tonight, after 27 years behind bars for a murder he says he did not commit, a Baltimore man is now free.
Yes, thanks in part to students and faculty at Georgetown University. Our Daniel Hamburg talked with Kenneth Bond and the director of the Prisons and Justice Initiative at Georgetown. Daniel, they're still working to clear his record.
Yeah, Chris, Bond and his lawyers say another look at the evidence proves his innocence, but exoneration is still another step away after he was released under Maryland's Juvenile Restoration Act. After more than 27 years in prison, Kenneth Bond is a free man.
When I was released, you know, it was like amazing. It was like a living dream.
Now 43, he was only 16 when he was convicted of murdering another man at a bus stop.
I never was a killer. You know, I've never taken a life.
In prison, he took classes with Professor Mark Howard, who took on his case as part of the Making an Exoneree program at Georgetown University.
Our students thoroughly reinvestigated his case and found overwhelming evidence of his innocence.
His students put together a documentary in 2018 interviewing the witness who was a large reason why Bond was convicted.
The first trial, second trial, I was never 100% sure that Kenneth Bond was the person I saw that evening.
The second part was a form of ballistics evidence that is completely discredited, that is now considered junk science and wouldn't even be admissible at trial.
Howard is representing him along with Cooley LLP law firm and the Mid-Atlantic Innocence Project. For now, Bond is living with his grandmother and adapting to life on the outside.
Just enjoying what it is to live life. You know, living a fully present life, and at every moment that, you know, I'm trying to be engaged in and, you know, to enjoy, because really it could be taken away from you any day.
Just 4 days after being released, he was in class at the University of Baltimore. He's close to getting his bachelor's degree in psychology and plans to pursue a master's. Now, if you'll remember, another man who was recently released from prison, Adnan Syed, had his murder conviction overturned in October. Howard says the same detective that worked on his case also worked on Bond's, and now his lawyers are working to get Bond exonerated and compensated. Live in the newsroom, Daniel Hamburg, DC News Now.
All right, time for a look at the forecast. It'll feel like June and February, at least for one day.
Loving the sound of that. We got our chief meteorologist, Jessa Webb here. Janessa, we could see 80s this week.
Yeah, that's the positive news. But then Wednesday, I don't want to get too far ahead. We are talking about more typical February air that's going to settle in. So you have to really keep track of the weather this week, because we're going to go up and down. That temperature roller coaster will be fairly wild throughout this week into your late February. Highs today, upper upper 50s to near 60 degrees. Fredericksburg to Culpeper, Fauquier County, that was your hot spot, 62 across Rappahannock County. And so a little bit of high pressure wants to build in, but we are watching a few weak disturbances right now, well to our west, across 68 into the Alleghenies, looking at a few light showers, not really touching the ground. The bulk of that will start to make its way in overnight due to that center of low pressure making its way across the Ohio Valley. Look at the broader weather story here. It's across the Pacific Northwest where we have winter weather concerns. This is a fairly robust storm system taking over that area. It's going to linger well to the upper Midwest, Ohio Valley, and so we're going to get lucky, pretty much staying fairly on the dry side and not talking about any wintry precip until about Saturday. That's when our game kind of changes here, but we do have that possibility of kind of that rain and snow mix. So you can see the showers are going to start to track in here around 2 a.m. Temperatures still very mild in the upper 40s to near 50 degrees, but man, these temperatures, they're going to continue to go up and down. We'll look at that forecast coming up.
Janessa, thanks. New details tonight. For the second time in a week, D.C. police are investigating a burglary at a high-end store. More than $4,000 worth of clothing was stolen from the Lululemon on U Street this morning. Just last week, burglars targeted a Chanel store in downtown D.C. This surveillance footage from February 12th shows more than a dozen people swarming that Northwest store, then spraying a fire extinguisher. The group left with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of property. So far, no arrests have been made.
And tonight, 2 workers are safe after an accident at a construction site in Arlington. So it happened at the corner of Langston Boulevard and North Culpeper Street. That's where our Marielle Carbone is live for us tonight. And Marielle, fire officials were called to the scene for a person dangling from a piece of equipment.
Yeah, that's right, Thasmeen. Fire officials say that when they got here, there was one person inside the lift, or the cherry picker. That is that machinery you see behind us. And another person was suspended from a harness. Now, fire officials, they were able to safely get both of those men down, but they tell us the accident is still under investigation. Now, initial reports show that the lift made contact with a nearby electrical wire when it was up in the air, and that one of the men experienced an electrical shock. Now, Dominion Energy was called out to the scene to assist with all this, but a spokesperson tells us it was not their employees or their lift involved. They did come out to help secure and manage the power lines that were hit during that accident. Fire officials do say that both of those men went to area hospitals and are suffering from non-life-threatening injuries, so they should be okay. But again, Chris and Thasmeen, this is still under investigation tonight. Reporting live in Arlington, I'm Marielle Carbone, DC News Now.
All right, coming up on DC News Now at 9, thieves are snatching cars and they don't even need keys to do it. How you can get a free tool to help protect your property.
Plus, free period products for college students at one Maryland University campus. We're there on how they're saving female students money and time. Stay with us. You're watching DC News Now.